Oh, another beautiful afternoon across the Rockies. Glad you are with us. Let's start by going straight to the VIP line. Okay, right now Newt Gingrich is it. He is the hot candidate. He's risen to the top of the GOP polls. He's got Uncle Mo on his side. And the question comes up, well, hey, isn't Newt a true conservative? I've certainly viewed him that way. There are some doubts out there about Governor Romney, who I happen to like a lot and would be very comfortable with as the nominee. But then this question percolates up. Well, wait a second. What about Newt's stand on illegal immigration? Is that the true conservative position? Well, we have the opportunity to speak with Congressman Tom Tancredo on the VIP line. We're grateful for that. Congressman, welcome back to K-How.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you.
What does he know about illegal immigration?
Me or
yeah, you. You.
I didn't know if you're me or Newt.
I'm just kidding around. We know that you know, and it's your big issue, Tom Tancredo.
Well, it is, but it is not the main point I guess I want to make about Newt, because I think that, I did an article this last week in WorldNet Daily in which I explained the fallacy of his proposal and the problems inherent in it, and that it is certainly not a conservative approach. And it is not. And we can talk about that if you want, but mostly I want to kind of respond to Dan when you say that you're looking at him. This was yesterday,
sure,
I guess,
sure.
as a conservative.
Yeah,
that's the point I have to quibble with, because he's not. And I will vote for Newt Gingrich if he is the nominee, and do so, with all my heart, because I desperately want somebody else there than Barack Obama.
Gotcha.
The danger I think we face here with Newt, with Romney, with a lot of the folks that have, risen to the top and then kind of folded, we tend to want to put all of our own sort of goals and aspirations in them. We want to believe that they are who we want them to be, and we get so disappointed when they eventually turn out to be something else. And when I ran for governor, you and I and Craig were talking oftentimes about the fact that the only way you ever know what anybody is going to do when they get into an office is to figure out and to look back at what they did when they were in office. That's the only way. There's nothing else, because their words during a campaign are meaningless. They are simply put out there for the purpose of gathering the support necessary to get through the primary. Now, when I won my first congressional election, 1998, I got the perfunctory call from Newt Gingrich, and he said, "Congratulations, and we went through that little bit of stuff about what a kind of a race it was and everything. And then he said, "I'm calling to just see if you're okay with are you going to support my candidacy for Speaker? I'm going to run again." Would have been his third term as Speaker, and I gulped very hard, because I wasn't, you know what I mean? I was a freshman. I hadn't even taken office yet, and here I was going to tell the Speaker of the House, and somebody I certainly admired for what he did in terms of leading the revolution, that I was not going to support him. And I said, "No, Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to support you." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, first of all, let me tell you how much I admire you for all the things you have done and for leading the charge that took over in 1994 and engineering it. It's brilliant. But, sir," I said, "since you have been Speaker, we have lost seats every election cycle, including that one, by the way, including 1998. And I said, not only that, but we have spent more money every single year in our own budgets, not even the ones that were sort of forced upon us, let's say, by Clinton. We spent more money than the Democrats were spending percentage-wise each election cycle." And I said, it has bought us nothing. We have lost support. It has been a disaster. Well, it certainly wasn't because of my opposition alone. He went back and found out that indeed he did not have the support of his own caucus and had to quit, did not run. Now, you guys, I have to tell you, in my memory, I cannot recall a time when a Speaker of the House was not supported by his own caucus for re-election. I mean, we threw out Wright. He lost his own general election, but no caucus has ever turned out their Speaker ever. I mean, maybe it's happened. I shouldn't say that, but I can't remember it ever happening.
Tom, let's see if we can cut to the chase. you're supporting Mitt Romney?
Well, no, I am at a loss to know who I can really be behind.
But it's not Gingrich.
But it's not Gingrich. I'm not going to vote for him. I will certainly support him if he is the nominee. I just don't want people to think he is going to govern as a conservative. He is not. No principled conservative thinker, as Newt sometimes portrays himself as, could ever support cap and trade. He now calls it a mistake. But had he been president, he would have made that mistake, and it would be too late to change it.
Hey,
Right.
if you had to choose between Romney and Gingrich, who would you choose?
Romney.
Why?
And only because he's being pushed far to the right because of Newt. That's the one good thing about this, is that Newt has at least now forced Romney to the right. Now, what happens when nobody's forcing Romney to the right? Does he default to the left? I don't know, buddy. But all I know is this, that I will not be, if I vote for Romney, I will not be surprised if he is not the principled conservative that I would like. If I end up with Newt, I will not be surprised as president if he is not the principled conservative that I would like.
Well, I have to tell you, I really appreciate you, joining us to talk about that, because that was not my perception of Newt, but what you say is a matter of historical fact. And,
Yes,
and
sir. You
it's
remember
important.
when we were about ready to actually shut down the government over, it was a budget fight with Clinton.
Yes.
And Newt blinked. Remember that?
Right.
He said, "I'm sorry. Okay, we won't do it." Now, if you're afraid of, let's call that the nuclear option for a moment. If you're afraid of that, then your opponents will always use that nuclear possibility.
Yeah, but the times were pretty good. The deficit was resolved. I know what you're saying about Newt Gingrich losing his speaker position and then shortly thereafter getting out of Congress.
Yeah.
But I thought there were ethical violations that complicated things.
Well, there were, I've forgotten how many, like 1,000 charges.
I think it was like 84, and he ended up admitting to one minor one.
Oh, it was more than 80. It was in the hundreds, if not. But then it all boiled down to like one or something. It was. I think that was less significant, frankly. It certainly wasn't significant in the caucus because I think most people saw that for what it was. These were political attacks, politically motivated. But I don't think that was the reason. Honest to God, you guys, the reason he was not continued by his caucus was because he was liberal. He was doing things that was pushing the Republican Party the wrong way.
Tom, let me ask you, Congressman Tancredo, our guest, was it anything beyond spending? And that's not to minimize spending. Obviously, you cannot be a true conservative if you're out there, spending unnecessarily. But was it anything beyond spending?
Well, I can remember that there were a couple of times, for instance, that we wanted to bring up the possibility of closing a department or two, one in particular, the Department of Education. He absolutely opposed that. He supported more funds for each one of, now I guess that goes back to money, but it's also a policy issue. What right does the federal government have to
Right, and you already mentioned cap and trade. Tom, I'd like to get to immigration because that is your pet issue, and I was listening to Newt Gingrich saying, hey, we're going to have illegal immigration boards of citizens, like draft boards, and then one of the considerations is whether you go to church or not.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seemed odd, and it seemed like a full employment act for lawyers, immigration lawyers, but I didn't quite get it. It sounds like another one of those magnets that Rick Perry put out in Texas. And how come your buddy Joe Arpaio is supporting Rick Perry?
Well, that's a great question. I think it had something to do with the fact that Joe is part of the what's called the Border Sheriff Coalition. It's all the sheriffs along our southern border. And Rick Perry, when he was governor, did give a lot of money to that organization. Maybe he's just thinks that Perry's a good guy as a result of it.
I'm shocked that
think.
Money would corrupt it all.
Yeah.
But get to Gingrich and immigration. Is he a liberal? Is Romney better on the issue?
On immigration?
Yes.
Well, today he is. Today he is. A few years ago he wasn't. When I left the presidential race, I of course endorsed him. But the reason, frankly, was because look at what we had staring us in the face: John McCain and what I call Huckleberry. You know what I mean? Huckabee. And so neither were acceptable. So